we have our dear guest in the house. Aya Ananda Bodhi Bhikkhuni is here. Let's take a moment. I'm going to introduce her, but let's take a moment just to settle in and just appreciate the Sangha that's here. Take a moment, a couple of breaths, and just even look around at all the beautiful faces and let yourself drink this in. This, everyone's beautiful face, the blessing that we have to be together. Beautiful. We're going to bring everyone's names in after Aya Ananda Bodhi leads us in a meditation. Or we can just rest into the refuge of the Sangha here. We can rest into the refuge of the larger Sangha, Treaty 6, that we are all a part of here in Saskatchewan. We can rest into our community also of nature that supports us with every breath. And we can rest into our lineage going back 2,600 years, practitioners going back 2,600 years in this Buddhist tradition. And especially tonight, bringing in, recognizing and honoring the lineage of our Bhikkhuni ancestors, our Bhikkhuni sisters. 2,600 years ago, the elder nuns of our Buddhist tradition wrote poems that were gathered into the Therigatha, a collection called the Therigatha. And Maddie Weingast has recently translated these poems in a way that has really brought them alive for many people in a new way. And he did this in constant consultation with our beloved guest tonight, Aya Ananda Bodhi Bhikkhuni. Aya Ananda Bodhi Bhikkhuni has been a monastic since 1992. She's the co-founder of Aloka Vihara in Northern California, which is a vihara dedicated to the support of monastic women, to nuns, and to lay women as well practicing. It's a great gift to the world. And she has also been one of the people, but a major person the last 15 years in the resurgence in Bhikkhuni ordination in our tradition. And her presence with us tonight is a direct connection for us to the living, to our living ancestor sisters, our living tradition, and the living Dharma right here in our own hearts. So I want to thank you, Aya Ananda Bodhi. I'm looking for your face now. There you are. There you are. I want to thank you so much. Your presence here already is a transmission of the Dharma and our ancestors and our Bhikkhuni ancestors. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you. It's really my pleasure. Thank you, Jeannie. The format is new to me, so and I'm used to just speaking without looking at a book, so I'm doubly challenged today. But it's very lovely to be here and with you all, and it's amazing actually to see so many people gathered from all over the place, Canada and America. I see a few Americans in there too, and to hear the Dharma and to connect with each other and with the practice and with the ancient lineage of the awakened ones, and particularly the awakened nuns, which is kind of special, who have been forgotten to a large degree for a long time. So I'm going to say we're coming back. I'm not enlightened, but I'm working on it. And also for me personally, it's kind of sweet to be coming into the Saskatoon Sangha because I first heard the Dharma when I was a teenager, 14, and it was completely life-changing, but I didn't know how to practice or meditate or keep sila or anything. And it took 7 years before I found somebody who could teach me meditation, because it just wasn't very popular in those days. And the person who taught me meditation he was also my partner. He became my partner also until I became a nun. But the person who taught me meditation was born in Saskatoon, in Saskatchewan. So yeah, so it's kind of sweet for me. It's like a completion of a cycle, or a coming together of a circle. So I let him know before I came on that I was going to be talking tonight here. So I'd also like to share merit with him, because he's been very helpful to me in my path. And also just to say that Loka Vihara welcomes all genders, actually. We're a nuns community, but we welcome all genders here to stay as guests. Yeah. So let's settle into some meditation. So find a posture that supports enough comfort. Be aware of your body as you sit here. Be aware of the weight of your body on the seat. And any warmth or coolness you experience in your body as you sit. Being aware of your breath, that natural rhythm and movement of the breath, the precious breath. And just letting yourself settle into your body, breathing. Just noticing if there's any constriction or tightness or sense of heaviness. Just breathe into any tightness you may feel in your belly or your chest or your throat or your shoulders. Just let the breath open that up. If it's helpful, you can take a few deep breaths just to stretch the body a little. And then let your breath return to a natural rhythm. So your body's fully connected right where you're sitting, connected with the earth beneath you, and aware of the space above and around you. So you're fully here. And be aware from the heart perspective, the connection to all of us together, each other and to others in our lives. Just let the heart open to that network of connection. It's right here. It's part of our experience. I'd like to invite you to focus on the heart center. And you can touch the heart center if it's helpful. Just notice how when you breathe in, that in-breath breathes in around your heart. Your lungs are surrounding the heart. And when you breathe out, you can let go any heaviness or tightness. Breathing in a sense of metta, friendliness, warmth. Breathing out, just letting go. So we have to make the very important journey from the head to the heart. Don't just stay up in your head. Drop down into the heart space. There's wisdom there. And take into your own being a sense of warmth and friendliness, acceptance, kindness, with things just as they are, in their imperfect state, just like this, friendly. So coming to the end of the meditation now, you can just slowly open your eyes. Keep that connection with your body and heart. Really, the Buddha is encouraging us to develop meditation in every moment, in all postures. We so easily compartmentalize it. So we're moving into a more engaged, a little bit more engaged mode, but you can still keep that connection with your body sitting here, the weight of your body, just feeling it, the weight on the seat, and hopefully a little bit of an open heart. Okay.
Thank you, Ananda Bodhi. Just we'll do a very brief little go round to acknowledge the beautiful Sangha that's here practicing together. My name's Andrea. I'm the facilitator behind the scenes. We have Jeannie Corrigal, our teacher, and a whole slew of people. We've got friends from all over Saskatchewan and Edmonton, as far away as Utah, and elsewhere. I don't know where everybody all is from. So wave hi, welcome. Thank you all for joining us. It's lovely to have you here. I'm not going to read all the names. So
Okay.
we also have a few folks joining us on Facebook. So we're happy that they're able to join us as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So I was asked to give some teaching on the poems in this book. It's called The First Free Women, and it's as Jeannie was saying, it's a very kind of quite a radical, modern, contemporary adaptation or translation. We never quite managed to find a word for it, of these ancient gathas, they're called. So originally the women who these poems came from spoke them. You know, in the Buddha's time, there wasn't people didn't, only the elite wrote. So most people didn't write or read, and it was an oral culture. So these would have been utterances of these enlightened women, and most likely there would have been times when people would gather and then they would share these poems. So you can kind of imagine maybe sitting around a fire and there's different women sharing their poems to each other or to students as a encouragement, you know, because pretty much all of the women in these poems are awakened, enlightened. So they are their enlightenment poems. So it's as an encouragement, you know, that this is possible to all of us. Don't have to wear the robes, shave your head to wake up. But it's good, but you don't have to do it that way. So it's an encouragement to others, and it's also a means of teaching and of gathering people together. So just to give that little bit of context to the poems, and I'm going to take my glasses off for this. Yeah, and Jeannie and Andrea gave me a list of some poems that they liked, and I added a few that I liked, and we'll just see how it goes. So I want to start with Dhammadina, she who has given herself to the Dhamma. Dhammadina was the foremost of the foremost teacher among the enlightened nuns in the Buddha's time. For so long, I thought only of the river's end. Then, one morning, I set my paddle down to watch the sun rise over the eastern hills, only to find myself floating somehow gently upstream. I promise, it was not what I had expected. So I find this a very beautiful poem on right effort. For so long, I thought only of the river's end. She's paddling away down that river, waiting to get to the ocean, waiting to become enlightened. But essentially, she's doing her inner work. When am I going to get it? When am I going to get the breakthrough? It's just hard work, hard work, hard work. And then one morning she sets her paddle down. She relaxes a little and enjoys the rising sun. And then finds, just in that moment of letting go, her mind awakens. So that image of floating gently upstream, that's like she's no longer caught in the flood and the currents of the ego, of greed, hatred, and delusion that we all, get pulled around by to varying degrees. So I find this a very beautiful teaching on right effort. If she didn't get in that boat and start paddling in the first place, she wouldn't have got anywhere. And if she'd have just sat down and watched the sunrise, probably nothing much special would have happened. But it's that combination of knowing that there's a potential to awaken, orientating one's life towards that as best as we can. It's not going to be perfect, even if you're a monastic, you do the best that you can with what you have. And giving yourself to that path, finding ways to bring it into your life. And then at some point there has to be this letting go. And it's not something we can, it's not like you're going to have it in your calendar and Google Calendars today, let go at 6:30. It's something that happens when it's the right time, and then there can be this opening of the mind and the heart. So I wanted to share her poem. And there's another one, it also has a water theme, Upasama, and her name means calm. How do you cross the flood? You cross calmly, one step at a time, feeling for stones. How do you cross the flood, my heart? You cross calmly, one step at a time, or not at all. So I love this poem. To me, this is a poem to keep in your back pocket and pull out frequently and read again, because it's pointing to the flood of samsara, really, of the world that pulls us off track. That it get overwhelmed with desire, with fear, with greed, with anger, with distraction, with confusion. There's many ways we can get caught in the flood. And so Upasama is saying, how do you cross this flood? It seems almost impossible. Well, you cross calmly, you stay centered, you stay present. And any of you who've crossed the river will relate to this simile. When you're walking across it, having to cross a river, there's the force of the water pushing against your legs, and maybe the stones might be a little slippery, and you've got to be super careful. You've got to stay really focused, and so you're grounded and you're present and you're centered, and you reach out one foot and you look for a nice stable stone, and you move your weight onto that without getting washed away. And it can be like that at times in the practice, that you can just take another step and then just another step really carefully. And then you might feel like, oh gosh, my practice is a mess, I can't hardly do anything. But actually what you're doing is very, very important in those moments when times are challenging and you're struggling and you don't know if you're going to make it. Sometimes this is one of the most potent times in our practice. So to keep trusting your intention of healing, of awakening, of presence, of developing, all of those things. Just keep trusting that intention, and then you just take another step, then you take another step until you get across. This is the poem of Sujata, Born at the Right Time. It can also mean good birth. So she recounts a morning in her life. The day began just like any other. We dressed, ate breakfast, and went to the park. As we were passing the Ananja woods, I remember someone saying, "Let's go to see the monastery." We pushed open the door, and there he was. How did I know? It was his eyes. I sat down, and the Buddha taught me the Dhamma. You there, be ready. Does today feel like just any other day? So for me, when I read that, I get shivers because I have a lot of strong sense of gratitude and love for the Buddha, who has changed so many people's lives over thousands of years through his hard work and incredible skill of teaching also that we can still use now. And so I when I read that, I just it's always like I'm there with her, opening the door of that monastery, and like, oh wow, who is that? And then hearing the Dhamma and awakening. She's awakening through the Dhamma, through hearing the Dhamma from the Buddha. And so there's that time back then of Sujata, but there's also now. How often do we get up in the morning and just, we already know what we're going to do. We've already got the story going of who we are, what we're going to do, how it's going to be. And now with the I think you call it lockdown in Canada. They're trying to make it sound nice over here and call it shelter in place. Now with the lockdown, it can be even more like that. So like, another like Groundhog Day, another day, here again, same place, same people. And there can be this kind of dullness, of the mind, of just like, because we've already thought we know what's going to happen. And so this poem is inviting us to be open to what we don't know, and to be curious. I think it's a very important part of the practice. I often like to talk about the awakening factors. The Buddha speaks about the 7 awakening factors, and the first 3 are factors that we can do practically at pretty much at any time. So the first one is sati, being aware, mindful, bringing a mindfulness to what's going on instead of just like. And then the second one is Dhamma Vicaya, which means investigating what's happening, investigating the states, investigating the situation, investigating what's going on here, being interested and curious. There's a cat that likes the screen there. Being interested and curious about what is happening now. And this is a factor of awakening, this curiosity and interest. And for that, the mind has to be open and not just like blah, 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 And then the third factor is virya, which is often translated as energy, but it's not like a forceful energy. It's a kind of a sustained energy. So it's the energy of sustaining. You can put it that way. So this is really accessible to all of us. So it's like bringing mindfulness, being open and curious about what's going on in a new way. and staying with that for a while. And then the result of those three is joy, piti, joy arises. And you know, and then we can enjoy that. So we're with what is very normal, but we're with it in a new way. There's a freshness. And you know, anyone who practices mindfulness of breathing will know that that's true with the breath. You know, the breath is the most ordinary, neutral, not particularly interesting thing. You know, that was here all the time, every moment of every day since we were born. And we don't pay attention to it mostly. But if we do pay attention to it in that settled, attentive way, it can be amazing what we experience. It can bring us into very beautiful states of mind, and it's also the most profound teacher. So the Buddha says everything we need to awaken is right here in this body. So you're with the teacher every day. The teaching is happening in you every day, every moment of every day. And the breath is the most beautiful. I mean, the whole body is teaching us, but the breath has this beautiful immediate teaching where it's so obvious that it's, you know, when you start to look, it's, you know, if you try and hold your breath, first of all, you can't hold it for very long, and then if it's not moving, it's not really breath. Breath by its nature is change, and then it's constantly coming in and out. The trees are breathing, we're symbiotically breathing together. It's constantly changing, and so where is it me? Is it me here? Does it become me when it comes inside, and when it comes out, is it still me for a little while? You know, is it mine, or is it just the movement of breath? Can't really say where me begins and ends with the breath. So it's much more, and also has this nature to like arise, come into a sense of fullness, and then start to decline, then come to an end. Like everything in the universe does that, and the breath is teaching us that every moment. So you know, what we have to learn from is right here with us every day. And I think that's so important to remember now, you know, that you can't just go out and do what you usually do, and you know, it can get maybe frustrating or stressful or boring or whatever it is, you know, stuck in your place. But the teaching is right there in your body right now, every moment. The liberating teaching is going on every moment right there. It's kind of amazing. So just to point you back to that. Okay, this is actually one of my favorite poems. It was one that was on the list from Jeannie and Andrea, and I love this poem, and I think some people are kind of like, what? But anyway, I'm going to read it to you. And when I read it, I come from a little village in Wales originally, and when I hear it, I hear the sound of, even somebody even asked me this when I was last there, but I hear the sound of the Welsh women in my village asking me these questions. So it's the teaching of Sailor, the rock. She says, long after the front gate swung closed behind me, I could still hear them. Why talk so much about death? Find a husband to share your bed. Bring children into the world to leave behind you after you're gone. But ever since I invited my own death into bed with me, I no longer feel lonely or afraid of the dark. What do we really bring into this world? What do we leave behind? A gate swings closed, then opens. Where does it all come from? Where does it all go? It's a profound poem. And I love that line. Ever since I invited my own death into bed with me, I no longer feel lonely or afraid of the dark. In a way, this is what the Buddha is inviting us to do. You know, it's that death is that thing we push off into the distance. Let's like later, another time, another 20, 30, 40 years. And it takes a lot of effort in a way to keep it at bay, you know, in our minds. And now, you know, with the coronavirus, it's more immediate as a possibility for people, and that can be very scary. And it might be that you know people who are sick or who've died from this virus, and you know, it's right now the teaching that the Buddha is pointing to is so clear. It's really in our faces now. You know, everything is changing, everything is impermanent. We can't find security in what is insecure. The world is insecure, it always has been. It always will be. It's its nature to be unstable. And epidemics are part of nature. They've been going on for a very, very, very long time. And earthquakes and floods and droughts are part of nature. So the Buddha is pointing us to the Dhamma, and one of the translations of Dhamma is nature. The Buddha is pointing us to the nature of things, the true nature of things. And as egos, we don't want to see all of that. You know, we want it to be nice. We want it to be comfortable. We want we want to hear the good things. We want to hear that it's all going to be okay. We're going to be safe, and everything's going to be nice again. And it may well be. You know, for some time it will. But sooner or later, we have to bring death into bed with us. Welcome the reality of death. And it sounds kind of scary and a bit morbid and like morose maybe, but it's kind of beautiful actually. It's freeing, it's peaceful. And this is what she says, you know, ever since I invited my own death into bed with me, I no longer feel lonely or afraid of the dark. There's nothing to fear anymore. Death is part of life. Birth and death go hand in hand. They belong together. They're part of this gift of life that we have. And it's part of the teaching of waking up to truth. And what do we really bring into this world? What do we leave behind? This is an important question. You know, on one level, when I hear that, on one level, there's the ultimate, you know. We come in naked, we leave naked. We come in with nothing. We can't take anything with us. And then there's also, you know, what do we bring into this world while we're here? What are we bringing? And the more I reflect on the Buddha's teaching, it's at the moment it's kind of coming down into this very, very simple, these two very simple words, or three maybe. Loving and letting go. Loving and letting go. So when I look at the teachings, of course, they're very profound and subtle and, you know, beautiful teachings. And yet I can kind of put it into the nutshell of the teachings are saying, meet the world with love and wisdom. And love, you know, you have the four Brahma Viharas, the different qualities of love, kind of the friendliness of metta, the karuna, the wishing that all beings are free from harm or any intention to harm. Then mudita, having joy for the beauty and the goodness and the being of others and of nature and of any good things that we can experience ourselves in our own health or practice or friends, whatever it may be. Mudita, sort of rejoicing. And then upekkha, which is usually translated as equanimity, can also actually Matti, when he was staying here for some time while he was working on the poems, and he's also very proficient in Pali. So he was teaching us Pali. He knows much more than any of us do. And Pali being the language that the Buddha's teaching was passed down in. And he was looking. He said his understanding as upekkha would be to have a perspective, on to look from a sense of perspective rather than being caught in something. So these are 4 qualities of love that the Buddha speaks about again and again and again, and really encourages us to cultivate. And they're kind of the enlightened response to the world, you could say. So, metta, instead of having ill will and resentment, we have a sense of friendliness. And I like that word friendliness rather than loving kindness, because loving kindness can sound a little, sometimes we can't get there. Loving, kind, we can't always get there. But friendly, friendly, it can be, if you think about your friends, sometimes they can be really difficult. Sometimes they can do really stupid things. But, they're your friends. So you make space in your heart for them. You try and guide them in the right direction if you can. So friendliness, instead of ill will or resentment, being friendly with conditions as they are, with people as they are. And karuna is usually translated as compassion. And then compassion has this quality of like suffering with another. That's the Latin. But the word karuna doesn't have that quality actually. It specifically means to wish that all beings are free from harm or any intention to harm. So that's the actual meaning of karuna. And there's another word, anukampa, which has that quality of like compassion, suffering with. But karuna doesn't have that quality. It's not. You're not adding to the suffering of the world when you practice with karuna. You're having that deep wish that may this being and all beings be free from harm or any intention to harm. And then mudita has this like rejoicing quality, like celebrating, enjoying the goodness. And it's not just about being happy about other people's good fortune, although that's part of it. So you can feel good about other people's good fortune, but it's also about being happy that, that we can meet together as Sangha right now, to be happy to know the Dharma, to be happy to be, healthy enough to practice, to be happy if you can look out a window and see the sky or a tree. It's that right rejoicing in the good that's here. And then upekkha, having a perspective or looking from a bird's eye view is another translation. That doesn't sound very loving, but it's a very subtle and very profound love, upekkha. Because upekkha, and sometimes it's described as a grandparent's love, the love that knows the whole picture, knows the good and the bad and the difficult and the beautiful and all of it, and it just opens and accepts all of it as it is. So the parents are more kind of caught up in the story, and then the grandparents have been through it, washed by all waters, as they say, and they just can let the child do what it's doing, not get too fraught. So upekkha is this very beautiful quality of love that's allowing things to be as they are, allowing that when there's birth, there's death, allowing that when there's success, there's going to be also failure sometimes, allowing that when there's that we can experience pleasure and then we're going to experience pain, and there'll be the neutral in between. You know, allowing the whole picture to unfold. And then the wisdom aspect, so Upeka sort of leans into the wisdom aspect, where the wisdom aspect is pointing to the emptiness of everything. Everything's in a state of flux. Everything's changing. So if we only look from the emptiness perspective, it can be very scary. So we don't want to only look from that perspective. And it can also be cold. If we only look from the perspective of emptiness, it can be very cold. And if we only look from the perspective of love, then we can miss the truth of the ever-changing nature of things. So the Buddha's teaching brings those two together like two palms of the hand, the love and the wisdom, like that. And in the meditation that we're doing at the beginning, you know, breathing in a sense of metta, breathing out, letting go. That's loving, letting go, loving, letting go. That is the cycle to develop. And you know, the loving helps us to not push away the things that are difficult, and the letting go helps us not to hold on to the things that are nice. And we need both of those. But we don't have to, you know, can sometimes when people can sometimes pick up the teaching in the wrong way, and they think like I shouldn't experience any pleasure, or I shouldn't enjoy anything, you know, I should just be letting go, and you know, but no, you can receive, enjoy, appreciate, and then let go. So it's not grasping, not pushing away. And you know, not to have a goal like I shouldn't be grasping and I shouldn't be pushing away, because of course, you know, until we're enlightened, we're going to be doing that. But it's more like to get to know, oh, there's grasping here. I want things to be different to how they are. And then the Buddha is very clear, grasping leads to suffering, leads to dukkha. Or you know, I want more of this and I can't get it, or you know, whatever it is. And so wanting and not wanting, there's always a certain grasping in that. So just getting to know that, and you can also notice the other way around. When there's dukkha, when there's suffering, when there's difficulty, when there's a troubledness of heart, there is attachment somewhere. There's wanting things to be other than how they are. And when we let go of that attachment, when we align ourselves with things as they are, whew, suddenly everything's okay. Even in the most challenging situations, everything's okay because it's like this. It's like this. So I'd like to also read one. This is one from one of the requested, and this was the first poem actually that Matty wrote. So he was writing. These poems were coming through for about a year before I read them. So he was working on quite a while, and then we worked together on them for another year or so, and then so there's quite a lot of care and effort in them. But this one basically just came through him unexpectedly, and he had no plans to translate this whole work. It just sort of came through him, really. And this was the first one. It's Dantika, the elephant. While walking along the river after a long day meditating on Vulture Peak, I watched an elephant splashing its way out of the water and up the bank. "Hello, my friend," a man waiting there said, scratching the elephant behind its ear. "Did you have a good bath?" The elephant stretched out its leg. The man climbed up, and the two rode off together like that. Seeing what had once been so wild, now a friend and companion to this good man, I took a seat under the nearest tree and reached out a gentle hand to my own mind. Truly, I thought, this is why I came to the woods. So this is a very important quality, I think, that we can easily miss, and we may maybe that we've never really known it. So when I first started to practice, so I mentioned that the person who taught me to meditate was from Saskatoon, and so this is when I was 21, and we were just in this very simple little bedsit or studio apartment, I think they call it over in America, in a sort of working class town, mining town in the Midlands of England, and he had been to Thailand and learnt meditation from Ajahn Buddhist, who was a meditation master there, and I had been looking for years to learn to meditate, and so finally I get to learn. We're sitting together. He's teaching me mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, and my experience was, so I was sitting there, and first of all, my body was extremely painful. I wasn't used to sitting on the floor, and my mind was totally all over the place. It was a mess. It was crazy, actually, and constantly just like judging myself. Can't do it. This is terrible. My body hurts. I don't want it. So there's this constant judging going on, and then when it ran out of anything to do here, then it started going to the cushion that was too uncomfortable, and then he was making it too long, and so there's just this mind that was just like looking for trouble, and then finally he rings the bell after half an hour, and I'm like, phew. And then I tell him all the things, all my grievances, and then he was like, well, compared to what you'd have in Thailand, the conditions are very comfortable here, and it actually wasn't actually that long, and so he sort of gave me a perspective, and so then the next time I was like, okay, let's try again, another half an hour, and that the next half hour I had, it was the same thing actually, but then I could see, look at my mind, it's just constantly judging, criticizing, and then I realized, like, well, it's probably been going on all the time, I just hadn't noticed before. And so I had to learn how to reach out a gentle hand to my own mind. It wasn't something I knew how to do, actually. And fortunately, he was very kind, and so I learned from him quite a bit. But also, just learning that, even just seeing how painful it is when we're berating ourselves, criticizing ourselves, putting ourselves down, or saying, oh, you're a hopeless case, or you're not going to be able to do it, or who do you think you are? And these are the voices of Mara. These are the voices of the one who's trying to pull us off track. This is what Mara does. Mara pops up a lot in the suttas as a sort of a character who's trying to pull us off track. And so those voices might come up for you. It's like, oh, I can't do it, or you might remember a time when it was really good, your meditation was really good, and now it's like not like that. And so reach out a gentle hand to your own mind. Be kind, and this image is of it's of an elephant that's been tamed. And I know in Western culture, they actually quite often come across those similes in the suttas of animals that have been tamed, and nowadays it's not so attractive as a simile, but it's pointing to that when we let our mind just go where it wants to go and do what it wants to do, it gets us into all kinds of trouble. And we can train our mind. And when we train the mind, then there's this kind of, it's joyful, it's beautiful, It's light. It's you can use your mind. You're not just burdened by all of the old stories and the criticisms, and they're all things that we've heard. If you have those, which I had a lot of, the things that we've heard when we come out of our mother's womb, little baby. They're not going on in the mind. There's nothing saying you're no good, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? And it's not happening. It's just like, wow. You're just open. You're just this little being, with karma. We've got karma, but you're just going, oh. Yeah. And then when there's something good, like when you're maybe resting on your mother's chest, then there's joy between you. It's wonderful. And then sometimes it's not wonderful, diapers need changing, or you're hungry or whatever, that's how it is. But we don't come in with those judgments. And to me, that's very important, because there's a time before they were there. They're not intrinsically part of who we are. They've been conditioned. There's causes and conditions for them to arise. And, education also, it's like in the education system, we learn to be critical. Critical thinking is highly praised. But there's a time and a place for critical thinking, and it isn't in your meditation. It isn't when you're at home with yourself. That doesn't mean that you become stupid. Discernment is a quality that the Buddha praises highly, and it's a wisdom quality, discernment. But discernment isn't criticizing. Discernment is investigating, questioning, seeing clearly, making good choices. So discernment is like that, but criticism, throw it away. It's no good. It's no use to you. So that image of the elephant trainer and the elephant, basically having this rapport and this friendship between them, and then riding off together, and the Dantika, the nun, she recognizes, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to, the body, you can say the body and the mind, the body elephant, and then the mind that can be, what kind of training are you going to do? So now everybody knows about the horse whisperer, and there's all kinds of whisperers out there now. But I remember when that was when it was first on TV years and years ago, there was a documentary about a horse whisperer and a regular way of training horses, and like the more traditional way of breaking a horse in. And so there were these two men who went off into the wilds and to capture and break in and basically train, each of them train a wild horse. And they were both filmed in different places. They were both filmed, and it was like, seeing the progression and what was happening, comparing these two ways. And in the beginning, the horse whisperer, he's just kind of hanging out there, he's just staying close to where the herd of horses, wild horses, are, and gets a little bit closer, and whereas the other guy, he's got a lasso, he's ridden up on a horse, and he's caught one of the horses, and he's already working on breaking the horse in. And then the other guy, the horse whisperer, he's slowly getting closer, and then gradually he's able to get close enough to one of the horses that he slips the rope over its neck, and he's there with it, but he's just talking, and he's just letting the horse allow him to come at its own pace. And then the other guy, he's got the horse in the corral, and he's like, we've got the whip out, and he's making it do what he wants to do, and he's literally breaking the horse in, breaking. And so, and at one point you're watching, and the it looks like the horse whisperer is like he's not getting anywhere, they've only got a certain amount of time. And then the other guy's the horse is already obeying him, doing what he wants. And then by the end, they both pretty much end up in a similar situation. They both end up with a horse at about the same amount of time that is, that they can ride, and that is tamed, let's say. And so the person doing the documentary, they were saying, well, if you end up in the same situation, why would one be better than the other? Why not just kind of do it the fast way? And then the horse whisperer says, well, if he has that horse, if he gets into trouble, if he falls from the horse or something happens, that horse is going to run back to the wild as soon as it can. Whereas my horse, because we're friends now, if I fall, it will look out for me. It'll find help because they have a relationship. And that's what we have to do with our own minds. with our own body and mind, not just mind, body and mind. So bring the body and mind into a relationship in a friendly way, and it might take a while, and that's perfect. So I want to offer that tonight, and thank you all.
Dear Nanda,
To look at the other.
So much. I wonder, I think that, I don't know if Andrea and I offered too many ideas, and I'm wondering what your favorite poem is.
You know, I have several. Yeah, I don't have one. I have several actually. Yeah, I love Sailor the Rock. I love Mahapajapati. Do you know that one?
Could you read that one? Would you mind?
Let me find it.
We're there all the time, but I know that people also would love to hear it.
So just to let you know, Mahapajapati, she's also very important to us because she was the mother, the Buddha's mother's sister. So the Buddha was in this kind of a kingdom, and his father had several wives, which was kind of common in those days, and some of them were sisters. So the Buddha's mother and his sister were both wives of his father. And Mahapajapati, she had a child already, and then it's said that 7 days, just very shortly after the Buddha was born, his mother died. And so Mahapajapati, who was already nursing a child, she had milk. She then took he wasn't yet a Buddha, his little bodhisattva, and nursed him and raised him as her own child. And then when the Buddha, when her son, who wasn't yet the Buddha, left home and went in search of enlightenment, after about 7 years of being away on his search, he came back to his hometown and he gave teachings, and many of the men decided to become monks, many. And so they were leaving the household and they were going off to be monks. And then the women were like, well, we want to do this too. And then there's slightly different stories, and I can't go into it now because we haven't got so much time. But basically, the story we get in the Pali Canon is probably a little bit skewed. But the story that is probably more likely is that he said, that the Mahapajapati, who was kind of she was a princess or a queen. She had a lot of standing in that community. And it said that there were 500 women who wanted to ordain with her. She and 500 women wanted to ordain. And so she asked the Buddha if they could ordain. And he said, it's slightly different in the Pali Canon, but the one I believe is probably the more correct is, shave your head, wear the robe, stay at home and practice, and then you will realize the fruits of what going forth is for. So in the Pali Canon, we don't get that nice line. It's dropped out. He just says, no, you can't ordain. And but in the two other translations from written down at the same era, same time, that is there. So it's probably been dropped out of the Pali Canon. And so she asked him 3 times. She says, no, we want to. And then he keeps saying, no, you can't. And so she leads these 500 women across about 250 miles to where he is. And where he says, yes, he accepts, yes, you can go forward. So she's like our hero, she's our lineage holder and our great grandmother and so on. So let me just find a poem. And this is a poem at the end of her life. So she was old. In her, I don't know, 80s somewhere, late 80s, I think. She died. And there's also quite extraordinary stories about her death, before her death, I mean. So let's find the page here. So this is her poem, and it's called Mahapajapati, Protector of Children. I know you all. I have been your mother, your son, your father, your daughter. You see me now in my final role, kindly grandmother. It's a fine part to go out on. You might have heard how it all began when my sister died and I took her newborn son to raise as my own. People still ask, did you know then what he would become? What can I say? What mother doesn't see a Buddha in her child? He was such a quiet boy. The first time he reached for me, the first time I held him while he slept, how could I not know? To care for all the children, without exception, as though each will someday be the one to show us all the way home. This is the path. To care for all the children, without exception, as though each will someday be the one to show us all the way home. This is the path. So I love that poem. Very, very beautiful. There's many layers for me. And, you know, I think, I don't know, this might be a little controversial, but I think when we practice, for many people, when we practice, we do find, you know, so you might be a parent yourself with children. And, you know, obviously at times children test your patience. But, and it may be also that, you know, when you practice, you find, for many people I know, that parts of ourselves that are still children have kind of got left behind, pushed away, told to shut up. And so it can be when we're practicing that those children start to pop up in our consciousness in different ways. And it can be kind of inconvenient sometimes. So, you know, it can feel a little awkward sometimes. Suddenly there's a 5-year-old playing out, or there's part of you that you've pushed away, you've rejected because something happened and you didn't know what to do with it back then and it's not really allowed, and so push it away. So for me in my practice, part of my practice is to welcome those children, well, however they may be, however they may look, or whatever age they are, however they may be, however they may be behaving, to welcome them into my practice. So to care for all the children without exception, as though each will someday be the one to show us all the way home. This is the path. So I want to leave you with that.
Dear Ananda Bodhi, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. It's been really lovely to be with you all. I just wish I could have seen everybody in one go because I haven't been flicking around here. It's, yeah, lovely. And it's great that I'm very happy that you have this Sangha, you know, and now learning to do it online. And it has some advantages because those of you who are far away can now be part.
So let's as you say, dear Ananda Bodhi, enjoy this Sangha, appreciate that we're all here together, and let the sweetness of Ananda Bodhi's words settle in each of our hearts. I suspect that I kind of speak for everybody when I say that we could keep listening for a long time. And so let's keep listening inside our own hearts to the ripples that she has set in motion in our own heart. Dedicate the merit of our practice tonight to each other. May this Sangha nurture you in your own heart. May this Sangha continue to ripple in your heart after we say goodbye tonight. Dedicate the merit of our practice to Aya Ananda Bodhi, who is newly dear to us now.
Thank you. I share it with all beings in all realms. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aya Ananda Bodhi.
Bye-bye.